So I've already done a couple of videos building out this media center, testing out some Ambilight products, and installing some unique custom lighting. And while I love how it looks, I'll admit I do miss my 120-inch projector setup. In today's video, I'll be going over step by step how easy it is to set up a 120-inch screen, the best way to backlight it with LEDs. I'll then be showcasing the setup with the hottest projector currently on the market. And finally, I'll go over the easiest way of getting your backlighting to mirror the colors and movement on the screen. First things first, I'll be removing everything from this area to make room since I want to start out with a clean slate. It is a little painful to be doing this because I know how much time it took for me to set this all up in the first place, but watching movies and anime plus casual gaming, in my opinion, is a significantly better experience on a 120-inch surface. Now, even though I know a big screen would cover up all the screw holes from what I just took down, I sleep better at night knowing it's already fixed. I used some dry DAC spackling to fill in any gaps or imperfections in the wall. Once it was all dried and sanded, I gave it a fresh coat of white paint. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have a dedicated space for a home theater, you'd probably want to go with the darker color. However, this room is where I'll be spending a lot of time editing, gaming, and filming, and a dark room would probably make me depressed, not to mention any ambient lighting looks much better against a white surface. Next up is getting the screen put together. Thankfully, I've done a couple of these over the past few years, and once you've done one, the concept is pretty similar. I have here a 120-inch Fresnel ambient light rejecting screen, ALR for short, from a company that I'm sure everyone has heard of by now, Valerion. So this is a 1.8 dB gain, which means the screen will reflect 1.8 times the amount of light as a standard white surface. This results in a brighter image, and when you combine it with the 85% ceiling and side light rejection, this type of screen is pretty much a must if you plan on using a projector anyplace other than a very dark room. Now, one of the trade-offs from a higher gain is usually bad viewing angles. This, however, still offers a great 90-degree performance, which I'll show you later on in the video. If you do end up buying one of these, I highly recommend watching their setup tutorial, which I'll link in the description, as that provides great close-up footage of each step to follow along. That's what I ended up doing, and it was super easy to put together. I would say in total it took me 45 minutes to assemble, and I was able to do this part all by myself. The biggest thing you want to avoid is putting a hard crease in the actual screen, since that won't come out, so be extra careful when you're doing this step. And honestly, if I didn't have such freakishly long arms, I would have gotten another person to help with this step. I'm 6 feet 4 inches tall, but my wingspan from fingertip to fingertip is 6 feet 9 inches, and I needed to use every inch. Moving on, what's commonly used to provide tension for screens are springs with the same type of concept used in trampolines. This screen takes a different approach and instead uses screws that's able to pull the screen in tight. Using this method, you're able to have a lot more control over every area and make manual adjustments to get the screen to have the correct tension throughout. Next is where the fun begins. I went to my hardware store and picked up a bunch of cheap primed 1x4 MDF boards, and then I cut them down to the size I needed using a miter saw. Then I went to my wall, and after doing a lot of measuring and remeasuring, I marked out the exact spot I wanted the screen to go so that it was centered left to right and at the height I wanted. I would have gone a little bit higher, but I have this unfortunate notch right here at the top left that kind of gets in the way, so I had to make do with the space. Now going back to the MDF boards, I'll be stacking 2 together, which will create enough space for the screen to sit off the wall in order to have a great backlighting effect. But the most important thing is that this frame needs to be slightly smaller than the size of the projector screen. I made sure to cut these down to size so that the rectangle I'll be creating will be about 1.5 inches smaller on every side compared to the footprint of the actual screen. For the side and bottom pieces, they really aren't going to be weight bearing, so finding the studs on those would be optional, but make sure to at least find a couple for the top section. I'm using some 3.5-inch deck screws, and those are long enough to go through both MDF boards, the sheetrock, and then get a good grip on the studs. You get 3 total brackets that you're going to attach to the wall, or in my case, my MDF boards. They include screws and drywall anchors if needed, but I'm going to be using a few more 3.5-inch screws that I used before. Since I'm wanting to put these directly into the studs, I'll space them out as best as possible. Then I had my beautiful assistant help me lift up the screen and place it on the brackets. I adjusted things so it was perfectly centered, and just like that, things are starting to come together. For LEDs, I'm going to use some of my favorite SK6812 strips. These have all the color options as well as a dedicated white, and I've used these in a ton of projects. But before getting too far in, I need to determine if I can get away without using a diffuser channel. On the right side, I'll be attaching a bare strip directly to the MDF wood. And anytime I'm doing a smaller project or need to quickly test something out, I'm always using the Mag WLED controller. I did a full review of this product in case you're wanting to learn more, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. On the left side, I'll be using the exact same LEDs, but this strip will be my favorite spotless diffuser channel from Musada. Basically, I'm wanting to compare both options to see if one looks better than the other. And this is a good glimpse into my project mindset. If I'm curious on how something will look, I'll generally just try setting it up, testing it out, and then make a decision based on the results. After looking at a quick comparison, while I do think it looks slightly better with the Musata profile, the difference wasn't significant enough for me to go through the extra work of cutting and securing the aluminum channels around the perimeter. However, if you look at this and think it would be worth the extra work, I'll link those profiles in the description if you're interested. Let's now move on to prepping the LED strip that will go around the entire screen. For this, I'll be taking a 5-meter roll of the SK6812 lights and snipping off the first LED. I'm going to solder my own 18-gauge silicone wires to the beginning so that I can move the power and controller further away from the lights, which will give me more options in regards to hiding everything. I've done a couple how-to solder videos that I'll link for you to check out, but in a nutshell, there's only about 3 easy things you need to learn to be able to do practically anything you want from a custom install standpoint, and soldering wires to the copper pads of an LED strip is one of those things. Next, I'll take another 5-meter roll and I'll be cutting off the end of our first strip and then the beginning of our second strip. The second skill is simply soldering 2 strips together like I'm doing here to make one long continuous run. As far as controllers, I'll be using one of my favorite plug-and-play options from a company called Glidopto. These are about as simple as you can get to set up. They have a built-in mic. You can use them for 5, 12, or 24-volt LED strips, and this, along with the Mag-W LED controller, have incredible reviews on Amazon. For getting the wires connected to the controller, it's super easy. I'll be putting my voltage wire connected to the LED strip in the V slot, the data will go into the D opening, and my ground into the G connector. Now, since this single run will be close to 10 meters, that's pretty long to only have one injection point in a 5-volt strip. So what I'll be doing when I figure out how long it needs to be, I'll solder an additional voltage and ground wire to the very end of the strip and connect that to the bottom voltage and ground slots to provide an additional ejection point. To make it easier to see how I'll be installing the lights, I'll take the screen down. And to answer the question most of you are probably thinking right now, I have no idea why she said yes to me, but I'm sure glad she did. So the reason I use 2 of these boards is because by installing the strip on the outer piece, it gets the light off the wall just enough, which means the light will spread out further behind the screen for a better effect. LEDs stick much better to an aluminum profile, so unless you use one of them, I recommend, at least for the bottom part, to use some double-sided sticky tape to help fight gravity. The other side should be fine without this, but it'll for sure help out down here. Now it's time for the LED strip. I'll be installing it starting at the bottom right corner and working my way around clockwise. However, you could start this wherever you wanted based on where you planned on plugging it in and hiding the wires. Here's a different angle to hopefully give you a better idea of what I'm doing. I'm securing the lights on the outside edge of our top piece of wood, trying to keep it all at the same spot so the light will reflect evenly off the wall when it's all done. I'll continue around the perimeter with my 2 5-meter SK6812 strips that I soldered together until I get close to the end. Without sticking the last part on, I'll cut it down to size, and this is where I'll again bring out the soldering kit to quickly attach the power injection wires that I mentioned previously. And in case you're curious about the soldering kit, I'll leave a link in the description for you to check out, but it's perfect for things like this. To again show you how easy it is to run this setup, I color-coded my red voltage and black ground wire with the blank one being the data that can go into the GPIO 16 slots on top. And then my red voltage power injection and black ground wire can go into the voltage and ground slots on the bottom section. By doing it this way, the LED strip will be getting power delivered at both the beginning and end. And since the SK6812 lights are 5 volts, you need a 5-volt power supply. I'll be using a 5-volt 10-amp unit, which will be more than enough for this little setup. Now, one of the things I've learned over the years is to make sure you really like something before you start cutting into drywall. So for now, I'll be running the wires down and around into the closet where I have an outlet to connect the power to. And after a couple of weeks, if I absolutely love this setup, then I'll figure out how to run the wires through the drywall and into the closet. Before putting the screen back up, test everything out to make sure it's working properly. And here you can see the nice even glow that this design is able to achieve, and so far I'm super happy. It's now time for the main event, and no shocker, I went with the Valerion Vision Master Pro 2. And unless you've been living under a rock, there's no doubt you've been seeing this everywhere. It was the highest ever funded Kickstarter campaign in this category, and it's been regarded as the best overall projector ever made in its price range. It's loaded with pretty much every possible feature you can imagine, and as soon as my buddy Rob over at the Hookup said that the Valerion Vision Master Pro 2 has basically no weaknesses, and that he's never seen a projector with this kind of performance at this price point, I knew that this was going to be special. Now, no one does projector reviews better than Rob, so I'm not even going to try to compete with him. I'll leave the link to his video in the description in case you want to get a complete breakdown of what makes this best in class. Instead, I'll do a quick overview of the main features before showing you some footage of everything in action. Getting it unboxed, you can immediately tell it's a premium product and that everything's been meticulously thought out. First, you have the unboxing guide, a small white box which I'll go over here shortly, the user guide, and then the Vision Master Pro 2 unit. Right away, one of the things that stood out was just how heavy this was for such a small form factor. It comes in at around 15 pounds and it's very solid in hand. Then I turned my attention to the aesthetics, and this thing looks great. And when I'm not using it, I would totally have this displayed on a shelf almost like an art piece, which I would never do with the more traditional looking projectors on the market. On the back is where you have your connections with your plug for power, digital audio output, 2 USB ports, 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, 1 HDMI eARC, headphone jack, Ethernet port, and power on and off. Moving on to the white box, you have a microfiber cloth to clean the projector, a remote that works with IR or Bluetooth, and then the power adapter. Now, the other area that can really tell you a lot about a company is what accessories they offer and the quality of those. Since this projector does support 3D content, they have 3D glasses that you can get, and I can't wait to try them out. They also offer a kit to mount this on the ceiling. This again is well thought out and offers a quick release, adjustable height, and a ball joint for additional positioning. If you plan on moving your projector around the house or perhaps outside, this tripod stand will give you the flexibility. The aesthetics on this are great with its legs made of dark walnut wood, and Valerion is definitely going for both looks and functionality with all their products, and you can tell they really want to stand out as a premium brand. The tripod offers a quick lock and unlock mechanism to make it easy to switch around to different accessories. So based on Rob's and a bunch of other people saying the same thing about this projector, I knew it was going to be awesome, but I still wasn't prepared at just how blown away I'd be at the picture quality and the black level performance of the Pro 2 combined with this screen. With its triple lasers, 3000 ANSI lumens, and 15,001 contrast ratio, everything comes together for a truly stunning picture, and I don't know how a projected image could get much better than what I'm seeing right now. And viewing angles are definitely good for this type of gain. Here I'm positioned way off angle to the left, and it's still very much watchable with a slight dimness on the opposite side of the screen as expected. Now, if you've never used your projector on a bare wall in a bright environment, then this probably won't come across as impressive to you as someone that's tried it. I have all my overhead can lights on in this room, and with the ALR screen, the image is still very much watchable. This allows you to potentially have a setup like this anywhere in your house and still be able to enjoy it during the day. Is it as good as a high-quality backlit TV? Absolutely not, and don't let anyone tell you that it will be. But the point of an ALR screen in a well-lit environment is for it to be watchable, which it 100% is. And on the flip side, here's what it looks like without an ALR screen with the overhead lights on, which is what I would consider to be borderline unwatchable. So again, if you're thinking of using this in an area where you can't control light during certain parts of the day, I wouldn't even consider a projector setup unless it's paired with a light rejecting screen. However, if you didn't want to spend the money on an ALR screen and can block out light if needed, performance on just a white wall is still going to be incredibly impressive. Moving on, let's turn our attention to the lights that we installed. If you don't care about mirroring what's on the screen, you can simply use the WLED program to control them and put them to whatever color or animation you want. However, if you do want them to mirror what's being displayed on the screen, then the easiest way is using Signal RGB. And since most of these Ambilight options don't work with built-in OSs, I'll be connecting my GMK Tech mini PC to the Valerion projector, and then I'll fire up Signal RGB. This program lets me easily break up my almost 10 meter long LED strip that I have installed behind the screen into sections, and then I can virtually move those sections around to any part of the display where I want it to mirror the colors. And I'll link a video in the description that I made going over this entire process in extreme detail that you can check out if interested. So this is honestly one of my favorite type of projects to do. It by far gets the biggest wow factor when friends come over because most people have no idea something like this even exists. Being able to have the LED strip match what's on your screen with this type of precision is just incredible. And being that we strategically mounted the screen close to 2 inches off the wall and then hid the lights in the gap, this means we get the benefit of a beautiful Ambilight setup, but we really don't lose that much contrast on the screen since the lights aren't directly visible. Now, depending on what you're watching, you may not like this type of effect, but I always find it funny when people act like there's not an on or off button. So if you like a pitch black room for watching certain movies, you can simply turn it off. But if you like having the entire room match the vibe of your favorite lo-fi YouTube channel or anime show, then turn it back on. It's that simple. And regardless of how you feel about the screen mirroring aspect, it is easier on the eyes to have at least a little ambient lighting in the room, and I think this is the coolest way to do that. I personally like having it on for everything, and even in fast-moving scenes, I think it just adds to the overall immersion. And I'll pause it right here so you can get a better appreciation for how pinpoint accurate you can get with Signal RGB's pixel mapping software that's able to take advantage of the individually addressable SK6812 strips that we used. So outdoor movie nights have always been one of my family's favorite memories, but the reason they don't happen more often is how difficult and time consuming it is to get everything set up. Here I have the Valerion 150-inch portable outdoor screen, and it's designed to be set up in 5 minutes. I didn't believe it at first, but after setting it up one time, I'm pretty confident I could now put it together in 4 minutes, which is absolutely crazy. The biggest time saver is the fact that everything locks or snaps in place, including the white screen, which uses buttons. And you're able to create enough tension with the snap-on design to get rid of all the big wrinkles in the fabric. Now, I'll go over the stand here shortly, but if you wanted to just mount this to something instead, there's loops at every corner you can hang it from. As I'm getting the 2 legs put on, the difference between a 120 and a 150-inch screen is massive, and you'll want to make sure to measure whatever space you have in mind for something like this, because you're going to be shocked at how large it is. Now, the beauty of lifestyle projectors is that they're small enough to be versatile, and earlier in the video I mentioned all their accessories, and this is a perfect use case for their tri-fold stand, as I'll be setting it up close to the railing and out of the way of foot traffic. Next, I'll move some of our deck furniture in place and wait for it to get a little bit darker before firing things up. So another great feature of the projector is if you set it up so that the light goes beyond the border of the screen, once you do an auto keystone correction, it'll automatically adjust the picture to fit the screen. This gives you the flexibility to set it up pretty much wherever it makes the most sense and let the projector do the rest as far as calibration. And no surprise, this far surpasses any outdoor setup I've done in the past, where oftentimes I was projecting the image on my white garage door. The image quality, even on a 150-inch screen, is crystal clear. But what I think is most impressive is that all in all, I could get this set up in less than 10 minutes, and I can't wait to have a bunch of movie nights out here this summer. So that about wraps it up for this one. I'll leave you with some of my favorite examples of everything in action, but thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a blessed day.
Trying hard to fight these tears, I'm crazy about you. Trying hard to remember the good times, I'm crazy without you. Trying hard to walk away, but I can't live without you. Trying hard to face the truth, I'm nothing without you. And now I'm seeing all the same signs, trying hard to remember the good times. It's like I've known you for 1,000 lives. Baby, give us one more try.